work was published in Global Environmental Change, and the title is Incorporating Blue Carbon Sequestration Benefits into Subnational Climate Policies. But let me start with what blue carbon is. So everyone around the world is looking for climate solutions right now. We know that emissions need to drop and drop quickly, getting to net zero by 2050. And there's increasing interest in so-called negative emissions technologies, ways that we can pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. Many people are familiar with trees, growing forests, planting huge numbers of trees to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere. And that's a great thing, but the ocean is also a really big carbon sink. And so there's a lot of work to be done to understand those dynamics. Now, the middle of the ocean actually pulls out about 25% of all of the human-caused greenhouse gas pollution in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide pollution in the atmosphere every year. That has some drawbacks. It acidifies the ocean, but it has a huge benefit. It means it's not getting as warm as quickly as it otherwise would if the ocean wasn't a big carbon sink. Now, there's not a whole lot humans can do to manipulate that carbon sink. There's been some ideas out there, like we can fertilize the ocean with iron, and I've written some papers on that, and there's a lot of big question marks around geoengineering ideas like that. But one thing that we've become increasingly aware of is that our coastal ecosystems, and by coastal ecosystems, I mean salt marshes, tidal flats, seagrass meadows, and mangrove forests, actually pull an enormous amount of CO2 out of the atmosphere, even more per unit area than tropical forests do. Now, these aren't huge areas, but they're absolutely vital ecosystems for a couple reasons. One, they pull a lot of CO2 out of the atmosphere. And so if we can preserve those ecosystems or restore them, we can actually enhance the amount of CO2 we get out of the atmosphere. But why should we focus on them? Well, they also provide us with lots of other benefits. They mitigate the forces of storm surge with big storms. They help reduce coastal flooding. They provide nursery habitat for fisheries. In short, if we can look at the carbon benefit of coastal ecosystems like seagrass meadows and salt marshes and mangrove forests, we might be able to come up with some strategies where we get kind of an ecological win-win. We get some CO2 pulled out of the atmosphere, but we also get these more localized benefits. So our study looks at the potential to incorporate valuing these ecosystems in the pledges that countries are making under the Paris Agreement.